Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. EST, actually 6:04. Doing the trading markets in crypto. AMA Ask Me Anything. Right now, we got just Bernardo and Nick in. This is for the BAM, and so what we do here is just what the title says. If you have questions about markets, whether it's crypto, stocks, forex, which is my specialty, um, gold, precious metals, oil, commodities. Like if it has a candlestick, like you see on that chart right there, I can trade it and I can predict where the price is going to go to a statistical degree of accuracy. So a lot of the questions are like, oh, what's Bitcoin going to do? And some of the questions, like if you're like Nick, who is one of my Algo Factory clients as well, then you might have deeper questions like, oh, how do you predict this? Like what tools are you using? So those shows tend to get a little tech heavy. Andy, welcome. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Doing well. It's been a bit, Nick. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again too. So yeah, Bernardo, go ahead if you have any questions, even if you want to like just basic questions or anything. Go ahead and ask.
Last year when I set up TradingView, there was an extra step behind the scenes under the hood. Some other company that I had to connect with or something, broker.
Are you doing stocks?
Yeah.
Was it for data?
Maybe. I don't remember. This is like 10 months ago.
Sure. So what's your question around it?
The question was I couldn't decide on which particular item to choose. I mean, I remember I got like the monthly subscription for TradingView.
Sure. And, okay. Do you know?
And then I couldn't figure it out, and I gave up.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to my business partner, V the Gorilla, earlier today, and 100% of traders who fail are traders who give up. That's actually something that I'm going to start teaching, but not to say you're failing. I get what you're saying. Like you barely even got started. I'm not coming at you that way. But so if you want to trade stocks, right? Is that what you want to do, stocks?
Well, I mean, I need to get my feet wet here.
Well, there's stocks. You could trade forex. Some guys like to trade cryptocurrency. Some guys like to trade precious metals or commodities. So there's trading and there's investing, right? So the guys who invest, they're going to buy some stock and it's a company they like, and they think about, they research the company. They research maybe what their P&E is. What's that ratio called? Dude, it's evading me right now. They'll look at like stock
ratio.
What's that?
Price to earnings,
or price to earnings.
That's ratio.
Yeah, price to earnings ratio. They'll look at the stock to flow. They'll look at like all kinds of different. They'll see who's the CEO and like what plans do they have to expand this year and what kind of investments coming into the company or. So those are fundamental stock choices. And these are people who buy a stock and hold it for a number of years. Those are not really traders, right? They're investors. Now, a trader is somebody like me who, like, I'll flip over to maybe like the euro. And, early this morning, I wasn't awake for this, but I have an algorithm. And all it is, it's not that fancy. Yes, I did computerize it, but you don't have to computerize it. You just take all this data on the bottom of the screen. And when all of these data here, these indicators in the bottom line up a certain way, then a trade is probably going to make me money, right? And I do it on multiple time frames, and it's all very procedural. Once you have established a procedure, you follow that procedure. And that procedure, while I was asleep, told me the price was going to go up right here, and go up it did. Now, this is on the 3-hour chart. This move took like 10 hours. So, I could show you like a higher resolution. And so at some point right here, I didn't have my auto. I haven't been using the auto trader, but the auto trader, like the bot trader, would have entered probably, they never catches the bottom, but it would entered like right here, and price would have gone up and I could have taken profit just based on the algorithm, right? Well, right now we're venturing into a territory. I'm looking up right now at one of the, one of my screens up high, and it's kind of iffy, and I haven't seen the signal yet, but this may actually come up a little bit further. It might be another opportunity for me. And you can see where my computer a computerized algo, which is another algo, told me to go up here, and that was a win. Said to go up here, that was a win. So that's what we do as traders. Now, we don't all use algos. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. We don't all use indicator-based algos, right? Like these guys here. A lot of guys, what they do is they actually just use candle theory, where they look at this data that you see on the chart right now, and they can, use that as a reason to buy to go long, or they can actually go short, and it's like selling, and you can make money on the way down too. So those are traders. Now, if you're going to use TradingView, then you probably want to be a trader where you can say, like, I don't know if it's maybe a stock that you think is going to go up, and you think it's going to go up 2 or 3% or 1% or whatever your number is, right? Let's say you think Nvidia is going to go up a certain amount today. So you take, however much money, and you put it on Nvidia, and if it goes up the way that you want it to go up, then you take your profit out on that same day or maybe the next day. Like that's trading stocks as opposed to investing, right? So one of the things you might have run into to get to your question is I had to kind of like lay the foundation there for you. So you may have got to your trading panel, which is on the bottom here. And were these the options that you saw that you didn't know what they meant?
Possibly.
These are brokers. So like interactive
Yeah.
brokers, that's a very popular one for trading stocks. Let me see what else is there for stocks. I thought, well, I'm kind of surprised Thinkorswim is not on here.
Yeah, and they also charge a fee, don't they?
Well, okay, so anytime you trade anything, there's always a fee. But the other thing, okay, so first of all, these are brokers, right? So certain brokers, and there are more than what you see there. I just opened up the rest of them. There are some stockbrokers on here, but Interactive Brokers is probably the kind of the big one that's actually integrated with TradingView, and you can actually trade your stocks on Interactive Brokers through TradingView, right? So that's one thing you might have run into, but the other might have been data. And the data's like, it's cheap. It's like $2 or $3 a month. That might have been what you ran into. Does that sound familiar?
No, it was like $200.
$200 for like, so are you talking about just a base subscription to TradingView?
Yeah, it was something weird. I don't remember. It was like 10 months ago, but
TradingView is it's not free. There are free versions of it, right?
Yeah.
But then you're kind of limited. It doesn't give you as much functionality. Like my annual subscription is like $900, I think, but I got 70 or 80% off because Black Friday. I do that every year. There's always massive deals around Black Friday, and there's other deals too. So you can get deals, and like it's not a big deal. Like, okay, so what if I bought in, February? I want to get the Black Friday deal. Well, what they'll do is, even though you bought in February with like no deal, when Black Friday comes along, you will buy a whole year's worth at that deal. And it'll just, now your subscription is going to go out a whole another year. So you'll have it through the following Black Friday, right? So it's not you don't want to just wait for a sale. Like if the sale comes along, you'll be able to take the same advantage as everybody else. But if you don't have the subscription, you probably won't be able to trade directly on there. You won't be able to have as many indicators if that's what you're using. You won't have as many like, you see me when I go to this view right here. These are all different time frames. So I do a multi-time frame analysis as like almost all professional traders do. So with a multi-time frame analysis, like you won't have that capability. Yeah, you can do it. You just won't have it all on the same screen. You have to flip back and forth between the time frames. There's a lot of limitations on the free version. Anything that's free is probably going to suck. Like it's just how it is. So if you're going to sign up for TradingView, Bernardo, here's what I'd recommend. Just go ahead and give it a shot once you've attempted to kind of get onto TradingView. And instead of me guessing on this show what you ran into, just give me a DM and say, hey, man, I just tried to sign up and I ran into this, and I can walk you through it. How's that sound?
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah,
Thanks.
don't be shy, man. Just hit me up. Go through school DMs, or I'm actually I'm easier to reach on Signal DMs. Like I look at that more often because I have a lot going on in Signal. But dude, school works. I look at that at least once a day. So Good. Nick, what kind of questions do you have?
What do you think about silver and Bitcoin?
Silver up, Bitcoin down.
Okay.
So just in the in a sentence, but you know, we've talked about, and I think you've been keeping up with the live labs, right, Nick? Have you had a chance to watch those?
I watched a little bit. It's just I slept in yesterday. I was just doing stuff the night before. So yeah, but can you like catch me at the kind of
If you just kept it down to like one girl at a time, you'd be able to get some sleep, dude.
okay. Yeah.
Just one girl at a time, bro. Like, I mean, if you could
Yeah.
do two, do it, but not on a school night, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you're gonna have and those threesome, like those foursomes with those three models that you've been doing, like that's. I mean, I congratulate you, but you're not gonna get anything done with work, bro.
Yeah,
Um,
my trading algorithm's never gonna get done. That's true.
Agos, you just gonna get all the puss. Excuse me, there, Andy. Sorry to be foul. Silver is Andy and Bernardo, by the way. So the thing about silver, it's a fundamental thing, right? So now I will tell you that I was just talking about this in the BAM finance group with Justin Gualiata and silver might slow down. I think it'll continue up. I think we're probably going to see $100 by next year, if not higher. But nothing goes up in a straight line, and this thing has really almost gone up in a straight line. Like, if I look in the daily chart, it's just heading up hard. And I talked to a local guys that I've been going to for years now, and they were telling me that the wholesalers are starting to pay less for the silver. So the wholesalers don't want it like as much as they used to, right? So what
Okay.
that tends to mean is that things will slow down a little bit. But there's always that chance there's a panic. Now, if there's a panic though, then people aren't going to buy. So it's a self-correcting mechanism. But there's just like signs that this might kind of be it. And by the way, you'll notice that it hit my fib target right here, this 618 fib target,
Oh well.
which was at 64. So, there's a good chance it'll at least go sideways. It might pull back a bit. Um, if I were to do just a fib look on where it might pull back to, if it remains hyper bullish, it'll probably go down to like 60. If it pulls back now, it may not pull back now. It may continue up. Like, look, you're looking at people basically panicking into silver lifetime. So where's it going to go? I don't know. It's just bullish, bro. Like,
Because I heard a while ago that was it Saudi Arabia or some other country bought a shitload of SLB contracts? Wouldn't that drive the price up? Even
well, at this point, it's a fundamental problem, and what it is that like the Comex and LBMA have run out of silver. So
oh, okay.
that type of silver is not like so they need a specific kind of silver. It's 1 kilogram 9999 silver bars. Like it's very specific. It's all got to be refined and assayed, and it's a process to get that kind of silver. So like your Jimmy John's cash and carry like that, the issue with that is like those all that silver doesn't go into that market. So there's two kinds of silver. There's in that sense, right? There's like the kind that you can use for Comex and LBMA, and then there's the kind that just everybody else can use. So are they going to take all that silver and put it into the refineries and get it done in time, or is it so it's just you have something going straight up. Um, so I mean, it's going to pull back, and once it pulls back, you'll have kind of a better idea of what it's going to do. But right now, it's in FOMO. It's very hard to chart FOMO. It's just everybody's FOMOing in. As to what was the other one you asked about? Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin's going to probably like I think kind of covering over Algo Factory. I think Bitcoin's going to move down to 83,000. And let me zoom in a little bit here. And I think that it will. I think it'll break below and head into the 70s, but it is running into like the bulls keep catching it around 85,000. So, but the problem is the Nasdaq's pulling it down. So look at that move in the Nasdaq today that I did predict this morning. I told everybody this was going to happen this morning. That was going to dump like this, and a lot of what's going on has to do with the Japanese yen carry trade. And Nick, you've been around for a minute with us. You know, we've been talking about it, right?
Yeah.
The yen carry trade is, you know, that the Japanese yen is the world's liquidity source, and the Japanese are looking to undo that. So when the world has no liquidity, you end up with a solvency problem. So there's going to be a fair amount of liquidation. Um, I mean, there is talk of that. There's talk not of it going to happen, of that it's happening in live time. That the Bank of England and the British leadership are basically liquidating their empire. So and that's like a massive write down. So we may be in for like, well, I think we might be in for a bit of deflation here, like in stock values and stuff, right? It doesn't mean house values go down. It doesn't mean, I mean, they might. Now, deflation is good for poor people because minimum wages don't go down. But the not, I mean, as far as I know, they don't go down. You just, you know, jobs just get cut.
Yeah.
But in the end, you know, when everything kind of reorients and business starts back up, then, you know, poor people do better if there's a lot of deflation because now they can afford their house again. They just had to go through like, you know, 4 to 24 years of hell before they could get a job to pay for the house. But that's a whole economic different story. But this all relates to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a very speculative asset. I mean, it has been accepted by the traditional finance community. It's part of the bigger picture now, and I have theories around that. But we're at the end of the cycle. We are at a point where the stock market itself might even fall, and with that, I think what we're going to see is Bitcoin going into its bear market like it always has done at the end of its 4-year cycle. We're at that time, and everything I'm seeing in the high time frame does not look good from a you know, from an indicator standpoint, certainly a calendar standpoint. I mean, everything right now is kind of against Bitcoin. And there's always that chance that there's a speculative wave and it's like, you know, maybe some money floods back into the market or whatever. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Had to hit the mute button. Uh, you know, it could turn around, but even if it does, whatever that is would probably be the last hurrah. And I think we've already seen the last hurrah. And I've been telling people in, you know, tub communities, but I've been saying it since when it was the 10% that, and Algo Factory and everybody else, that I felt that the Bitcoin's like high, the cycle high would be between 120 and $160,000. And I got some hate for that. It was, oh, it's going to go to $250,000. Like, okay, you know, I've been around in this game for almost 10 years. So, you know, good luck. You know, maybe you're right, maybe you're not, right? So it turns out so far that I was correct. It hit 126. So do I think we're going to see all-time highs again? I think the probability at this point is pretty low for Bitcoin on that. Um, while we could get like a 2021 style like double top where it hit a top, in this case, the top was in October and we're already in December. So it might be like if we had some like double move where we saw another top, it probably wouldn't be until like February, January, like um but I doubt we're going to see that. This is no. I'm just going based on past data, right? I'm going based on old data. So we have to understand that as traders, we have to use the data that we have, right? Now it might be different. It's like, oh well, you know, BlackRock owns Bitcoin now, so it's going to be different. Like, oh yeah, maybe it is, but we don't know that. And until we know that, we have to go based on the data that we have, right? So unless you're like a quant, yeah, let me ask you. I have a quant on demand here. Let me see if I can ask the quant if see all general quants. I'm gonna ask the quant if he thinks. Okay, let's see if they think the top is in. Okay, no response yet. Without latest data, can't confirm. Typically, Fourier cycle peaks are marked by exhaustion signals. Keep an eye on those to catch the top. I think we've already seen the top. Have we seen? In this for year.
Yeah, because I've heard some like crazy Bitcoin believers thinking it's going to go to like a $250,000 a coin.
You're always gonna
Thinking,
hear
I don't
that.
know.
There's
Yeah.
always those people. And it's fine, like I get it. I was there, you know.
Yeah.
Data feed's down right now.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. What's
Well,
going on here?
also
Oh, a lot
another
of the
question, like,
internet's messed up right now. Interesting. There's
is it just in your area right now? I guess you
no,
having
it's
storms or
like there's other stuff, other services that I use are all kind of getting funky.
oh, okay.
Either way, I think top's in, but it might not be. So I mean, if I had to bet, I bet a lot. I was out of all this stuff in January when V the Gorilla let us know that his clients were selling their Bitcoin for gold.
Yeah, that's a good sign when you see the money moving in another asset that it's probably a sign that maybe the ride's getting it's over to the end. I guess getting over to close to the end.
Well, we hit the yeah. I mean, if those kind of guys are selling all their crypto for gold, that should tell you something. So, Andy, what kind of questions you got, man? It's good to see you, by the way. Andy may or may not be there. You're on mute, Andy. Don't know if you know that.
Yeah, no, I'm working on other stuff while I'm listening to you. It takes me a while to switch over.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I mean, it's just fascinating watching everything change in the markets, everything that is going on with Venezuela and silver and Bitcoin and even palladium and platinum. Platinum's probably doubled for the year. So all those rare earth elements that we need for our technical manufacturing are just they seem like they're going to just continue climbing. So
Yeah,
and
you
then
would
like
think that we'd start, mining and refining some of that stuff here. The military did put out a recent article saying that they're going to start having their own small refineries for that stuff.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. That's I'll have to research that because that could definitely circumvent a lot of red tape and make things happen faster than typical.
Yeah, I read that like last week. I don't know where I read it.
Oh, that's interesting. No, so our question is just, you know what? I mean, it's just amazing everything that's changing so fast. I mean, you can't hardly predict the way things are today, let alone what's going to happen next month. So
We have a decent idea. Like we have, for example, we've been telling Algo Factory members about the yen carry trade going back to late 2024. And actually, it was early 2024. The yen carry trade is a big deal, right? The yen is the world's liquidity solution. So if you look at like the Nasdaq, and I'll go to a higher time frame resolution here. You go back to August of 2024. You see that big move down right there? Right?
yeah, I'm
That one right there.
Yeah.
Well, that move down happened because the Bank of Japan hiked their interest rate twice. Only twice. They hiked it back in, I think it was like June, and then they hiked it again at the end of July or early August. And the whole market, the Nasdaq and all of the other indices and everything panicked. Just two rate hikes. Now, it was the first time they had hiked their rate more than, like metrically, they hadn't done that in like decades. And the reason is that the Japanese yen is like, it's like market heroin. And so they'll produce the Japanese bond, and that bond's basically at zero interest rate. So it's really cheap, essentially free. And then what they'll do is they'll sell those bonds for, like whatever. It might be US Treasuries. It might be they'll invest with those bonds around the world. So the Japanese have substantial holdings around the world. And see, the Japanese had a massive inflation problem. So getting rid of all of that debt and kind of taking on other debt was able to kind of there was an inflation deflation issue, and that kind of stabilized them. But and that had to do with there's a whole story. There's a really good video called Princes of the Yen. It's on YouTube. It's free, and it talks about the way that the Bank of Japan basically flooded the Japanese with money, with cheap money, right? And so, long story short, all those bonds are sold around the world, and now Germany, the UK, the US, and many, many other countries hold a ton of Japanese debt at basically zero interest rate. And it's part of their collateral. It's part of their balance sheet. Well, when you hike your rate and you issue debt that has a stronger rate, then the prior debt goes down in value because now this new debt is worth more in comparison. So it's kind of like you've got a bunch of, hammers on the shelf and they're all at $10. And it's like all of a sudden now you're selling hammers for $9.
So you can actually depreciate ancient debt by doing that. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's what we did for years. Like, so for example, we were at like real zero for a while. We were at nominally at like 0.5 or whatever the number was here, like all through the 2010s, like the Obama era. It was just cheap debt that we were issuing in the US, right? Well, we started hiking the rates up like in the last couple of years, and we ended up in a liquidity crisis, and that translated to a solvency crisis. And you remember there were a couple of banks that went down earlier this year. And I think this may have been why like some of the part of the reason why some of those other banks went down a couple of years ago. And all the debt that all these banks, these companies, and these other countries were holding, that debt immediately depreciated because we were issuing debt at preferential rates. Well, the Japanese yen is like that on crack and steroids at the same time. Like,
what a cocktail.
Yeah. So, and this was what you're seeing on the screen. It was just two different hikes that led to this panic. So we may be seeing a hike. This was the taper tantrum back in February. And DeepSeek actually set that off right here in December. But the taper tantrum, was really what panicked everybody. And so the taper tantrum was like just an event where, not that long before that, a very comparative event with just two different hikes right here. And that the Japanese want to defend their currency. They want their economy not to suck. So they're going to start hiking the rates to protect their currency. And there's a whole big picture to it, and there's all kinds of stories around it as to why they're doing it, and there's conspiracies, and then there's just, the basic story, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. So yeah, so knowing all of that and knowing that anytime it could have already happened. Let's see. Let me look on a different screen. Thursday. Bank of Japan policy rate still tentative. Let's see. Oh, it looks like they've done whatever they're going to do, I think. Interest rate high baked in. Okay, this is 6 hours ago, so I don't know. BOJ hike is fully priced. They're trying to say the Bank of Japan hike is fully priced in. I don't know that I trust that. Let's see. Bank of Japan interest rate decision 2025. Expected to raise its policy interest rate to 0.75% from 0.5. So it's happening. It's the 18th to the 19th meeting. So for them, it's the 18th, right? Right now. So they may be in that. I don't know what time it is in Japan right now, but they may be starting that meeting pretty soon. And but we might not hear until partway, through tomorrow. Today's only Wednesday, right? So yeah, they're probably, we'll probably within 24 to 48 hours we're going to hear what's happening here. And if the rate, I'll tell you what, if there's a surprise and they hike it higher than they like talked about, well then yeah, man, expect carnage. They're saying that a 25 basis point hike is priced into markets, which is why maybe this is going down. I don't know. But the Nasdaq did panic a bit today, which was this candle I showed everybody earlier, this big move down. So we'll see what happens. Back to Bernardo. Do you have any questions?
No, we're good.
Good to go. Nick A, do you have any questions, sir?
So Japan it would be nothing more than just a money laundering hub, because didn't like Japan deindustrialize, because most of it is done in China now anyway. A lot of the stuff that's made, right?
Yeah, Japan's got heavy industry.
Yeah.
They still make things there, but it's gotten, and as it is for China now, it's
Yeah.
just gotten more expensive to make things there because their labor costs are high. Because the people now have money, and so people are expecting higher pay. So I think China will slowly start to move their factories over to maybe like Africa. But I will
Okay.
say that a lot of Chinese factories are now automated too. There's like no people involved, so they may not
Oh, I
need.
heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what they call them. They call them they call them ghost factories. Like they have a name for them, but these
Dark
factories are crazy.
dark
Like
factories because they
dark.
don't have to turn the lights on.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, they don't have to turn the lights on because it's all machines, and the robots come out of the floor and just make it like the parts go into the assembly line and the product comes out the other end, and there were no humans involved. There's humans monitoring, like there's probably guys in another room, looking at the computers and whatever. But yeah, they're dark factories. It's crazy. So the automation is going to have like a big effect on that as well. So as to Japan though, like their robotics is really good there. They're one of the actual like China is really also awesome with robotics, but Japan has been into robotics for as long as the US has probably. Um so or at least since the 80s, if not the 70s. So China's just has come along and been able to catch up just because other people have already done it, so they can take what people have done and work on top of that, and that's what everybody does anyway. But the point here is that I don't know how much Japan has deindustrialized, but I think they still make a fair amount of stuff, and the stuff they make is like high quality. They make a lot of vehicles. They make construction equipment. They still make a fair amount of stuff there. I don't know how much of their economy is finance versus manufacturing. That I don't understand. But um,
Well,
but
that is a
yeah,
good point, because I did hear that Japan they are one of the world's best makers of commercial civilian robots for like not military use. America has the best military, but use robots for killing. But the Japan has some of the best like commercial civilian based robots for like
yeah,
manufacturing and stuff like that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
America will catch up. Yeah.
That all sounds feasible. I know people don't want to hear this, but there's a really good chance that whatever China's making is way better because everything
Yep.
China makes is better than the U.S. right now. It is
Well, they're
what it
good at
is.
reverse engineering. They become really good at that. That's the
Well,
new thing.
that's what they've done is they've had, they started 20 years ago. They reverse engineered, but now they have gone ahead and they've leapfrogged us in many, many ways. Like a lot of their
Yeah.
stuff is way more advanced than ours. They innovated. They had the money to do it. They had a labor force that was cheap. They developed their supply lines in a in a modern time. There's not the bureaucratic bloat over there hasn't taken it hasn't killed efficiency like it has here. The only way that we're ever going to be able to catch up to any of these places is if there's a massive washout, and that washout has to come either through an economic fallout or the barrel of a gun.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because
Crazy.
bureaucrats, they want to keep their job, but they're useless.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty much a parasite on society, all the money that they're burning through. Yeah.
They're just they justify the position by making rules and gatekeeping, and bureaucracy, like there's a place for it, but in the end, like any kind of person is going to want to justify their job, and
Yeah.
bureaucrats are like the epitome of that. So over in China, they don't care about that. Like there is bureaucracy, don't get me wrong, it's everywhere, but China's command and control. So the first thing is everybody in China, like they're all Chinese, so they can all think the same way and make the same decisions. Like here in the West, it's not the case. You know, America was like 90% white, 50 years ago, but
Yeah.
that's not how it is now, and that's fine. It is what it is. We can complain about it or deal with it, but everybody in China, they're all Chinese, just like everybody in Iceland. They're all like Icelandic. Just they could just make decisions, and they all think the same way. So there's the bureaucratic issue, the bureaucracy issue, and then there's just the like America's not organized, and it can't organize because there are people who think too many different ways. So it's going to be what's going to be. Like you gotta find a way to come out on top, and eventually, over time, depending on how we handle things, if we can fix everything and stabilize, and maybe like keep the border shut and for a very long time, then America will sort of homogenize, and there will be a chance for order. But at this point, the way things are here, it's better now. Last couple of years, last year or so, but if we continue down the path we've gone the last like 10 or 15 years, we're going to fall apart, because that's just that way of seeing the world and treating the world, and that's not going to work. That's just where everything will fall apart. Like, but if I were looking to, the future of like what's going to go big in this country, even under the circumstance, I look at power grid expansion. I think anything to do with power grid expansion, any company you can invest in with power grid expansion, um, that's going to be fire like the next 10 or 20 years.
because of the demand created by the AI.
Yeah, demand created by AI, demand created by humans. Just everything is going that route. So the internet's only going to get bigger. The AI stuff, that's only going to get bigger. Um, the compute power, all of that, and there's a bottom up and a top down pressure on expansion of the grid. So you're going to see money flowing that way.
Hmm.
If I were like a young person, I'd go be an electrician, or I'd learn how to build data centers, or that's what's needed, right? If I were somebody just who like was an investor, then I'd look for companies that are in that realm, right? Modular nukes, they're going to come on. Modular nuclear reactors probably going to come on the next couple of years. You know, um, Energy generation, grid expansion. That's and that's going to push up things like copper. If you're looking at commodities, I think we're going to see a commodity super cycle, and that's going to be in a big part due to the dollar being devalued, and the dollar has to be devalued. It's been devalued, but it's going to have to go, I think, through a very strong devaluation against real assets. But as we were saying in our Algo Factory, we were doing like it was a Rogue, one of my Rogue podcasts. I had Ben Kelleran on, who's a band member as well, and we were just talking about the dollar, and like the dollar's not where you want to hold your money, right? For the dollar doesn't appreciate it; it's quite the opposite. But he said it was like they're all turds. He's like, the dollar's kind of a turd, but all the currencies are turds, and the dollar's probably going to be a better turd. I said, and then we made a joke that it was the last turd floating. So
Or didn't Peter Schiff say it was like the dirtiest shirt in the cleanest hamper or something? I forget how he says it's funny.
Yeah, cleanest shirt.
It's not the best.
Cleanest shirt.
It's
in the
not the
dirty
best,
laundry,
but
yeah.
it's not the worst.
Yeah, it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. So we see it's the last turd floating. So the dollar is, and we've talked about this. Like, Nick, you may have seen it in one of our Algo Factory shows, but look, I've been calling this shit out very, very accurately. This is a pretty low time frame resolution. This look that I gave to Algo Factory is meant to go out to like next year, right? So, and this is the dollar compared to other currencies. And these are the different kind of paths that I was looking at the dollar doing. Like, Just either coming up here, there, bouncing around. But at some point, you're going to see, like, I don't know that we'll see the dollar below 96 on the Dixie, on the compared to other currencies, right? Like, but they're like the dollar had been going down against all these other currencies since January 25, which is great for our exports because you want cheap dollars for exporting. But now it bottomed out, and it seems to be forming it formed a double bottom, which is a chart like a candlestick pattern, right? You can chart that kind of stuff alone. You don't even need all these indicators and stuff. You can just do candle theory. I used to do it. But I think that you're going to see basically what I drew here, where it's going to bounce around, and when it can break 100, when the dollar can go above par, that's when you're going to see like a lot of things change. And like what we have seen is that things are going up at the same time when they should not be going up at the same time. Like you saw stocks and gold going up at the same time. You saw bonds and stocks going up at the same time. Like everything. Well, that's because everybody's panicking out of currencies and the dollar was getting weaker. Well, guess what? There's a really good chance. And I've looked at it algorithmically, like on the, using my algo stuff. There's a decent chance here that the dollar is actually going to strengthen against other currencies. So we don't want that. It's going to be bad for exports. Not like we export a ton anyway, but we do. We make stuff, we export it. We don't make stuff like we used to. But either way, I think we're going to see the dollar get strong. So,
Hey Nick, talk about a little bit ago you mentioned something about Britain. You said they were something about they're going liquid or
liquidating their empire.
Yeah, talk about that because the U.S. dollar is tied pretty closely to the British pound, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would even say it's tied closer to the euro than the British pound. Look, the British Empire has a lot of land, so in the end, everything is going to go to commodities, and so the Brits have Canada, Australia. They have Canada for now. The U.S. might take a portion of that someday, but the Brits have a ton of land. And so they'll always be able to extract resources from the land should they choose to do so. Now they've chosen not to do so. I don't know why that is. There's a ton of resources. Australia, they actually mine a lot in Australia, but because they can sell to China. But I don't see a ton of they're not taking advantage of Canada at all. So the U.S. has a lot of land. The Brits have a lot of land. Now the Europeans, they have places like Greenland, and but they don't really have the land that the Europeans have is not resource rich, and quite frankly, it's why they were going after Ukraine in a big way. They wanted Ukraine's resources.
So what are you saying that the Britain maintained the mineral rights in Canada?
Well, the crown owns all that land technically. All that land belongs to the crown. So it almost doesn't matter if you own it. It's all about if you control it. So the crown controls all that. All those minerals, like that can just be unlocked at the discretion of the crown, essentially.
Because I know Canada's not mining hardly anything what they're capable of.
Oh no, not even a fraction. Yeah, Canada's got massive resources. They're just not even touching it. And I think it's because they don't want their people to have strength. They don't want to have a strong economy or something. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it. It might be they're buying all the environmental shit. And quite frankly, mining is not good for the environment. Like here in Idaho, we ruined the Coeur d'Alene Lake with the silver mining, but that was like 100 years ago. And it could be cleaned out. Like that could be fixed, but they just don't it's expensive. But you can't fish out of Coeur d'Alene. So I'm not putting it down. Like mining's harmful, but at the same time, there's ways to do it and there's places to do it. You can mine and you can minimize the impact. Refining the metal, if you're going to mine, that's also very that, your rivers light on fire and stuff. Like it's, you gotta, it may be that they do have legit environmental concerns and that's why they're not doing it. I really don't know. But Australia,
I think a part of it too is, I did hear Carney owns a lot of oil companies in Venezuela outside of Canada, and I think they would rather. It doesn't make any sense, but I think they'd rather harvest the oil somewhere else. That way, they can pay slave labor wages compared to paying fair wages here, and just kind of that way it keeps an imbalance of price so they can manipulate it more too, right?
Yeah,
That's the
for
only thing that
sure.
makes sense to me. Yeah.
Same reason why
Yeah.
things are being manufactured in China and not the US.
Yeah.
Like
Because
it's
if
just
China,
cheaper.
yeah, yeah, because if America was able to build everything in its own with all its resource rich, what it used to be, it would be unstoppable. But unfortunately, the way it's set up, it won't happen, right? So
Well, yeah, if America starts to make everything and not buy anything from anybody, then America's like influence around the world goes down.
yeah,
So if you want to influence other countries, start doing business with
yeah,
them.
yeah. Because I remember, I forget the name of the one guy. He called it the dollar milkshake theory, where he says even though the U.S. dollar will collapse in the end, there's actually a shortage of U.S. dollars right now around the world, and that's what's
Yeah.
going to create this problem in the future.
That's why
Yeah,
people are that's why the dollar is actually like that's why we're not seeing like a whole lot of rate cuts. We're seeing them, but there's really not a reason to cut rates. The dollar doesn't, and the reality is that's just the Fed. Like the actual rates are determined by the market. So, the prime rate is just the prime rate. So it's kind of like they do their own rate determination, but the actual like rates are going to be determined by supply and demand, and people still want U.S. debt. Like it's still the most, it's still it's the in the debt world, it's the last turd floating. Like everybody wants U.S. debt. It's sure, like the Swiss debt and Swiss currency is probably more attractive, but they're not a very big economy. They don't like make anything, so it's not a big enough economy to handle world finance. The British pound at one point was, but they lost that, and they don't. The Brits don't make anything anymore. They just own a bunch of land from which they extract resources. They've outsourced a lot of their manufacturing to places like India. They've kind of done the same thing we have, with just different partners. But the finance and the London still is in a big way the financial hub of the world. It's London and New York are competing twin brothers basically, and Hong Kong is in there too, which Hong Kong is basically British. But China's taken it over. So you're talking about like very lots of moving parts, and but the Brits right now, like if you look at what they're doing to England, to get back to Andy's kind of question, like they're letting in anybody and everybody, right? And they don't care what their people say, and they're putting their people in jail over tweets, and so basically they seem to be going for broke. Now there is something going on where Brexit finally takes effect, I think in 2026, because it takes like 10 years to actually leave the EU legally. So, there's that. Like there's a 10-year period where you can't go back. I don't know the details. I'm sure it's very nuanced. But once that 10 years is up, it might be that the conservatives come back in and, fix things. So what they're doing is the same thing as what happened with under Biden, where they knew that they stole the election in 2020. They knew that Trump was going to come back or somebody else was going to come back and win. And so they just flooded the zone with like tens of millions of fucking immigrants here in the US, and not the kind of immigrants you want. So they're kind of doing the same thing to the entirety of Europe.
yeah,
And the British Empire as well, which they're doing it all. And with the British Empire, it's depends on where you are, what kind of people you're getting, but you know they're the leftists and the people who want to extract wealth are going for broke. And this is, I'll put it to you this way, Andy, like to kind of get back to your question on the liquidation. Um, like if you look at Europe right now, Europe's in trouble, right? They're financially broke. Now, what they can do is they can collateralize this is how all countries in the modern monetary environment do. This is probably why we're going after Venezuela. In order to issue debt, you need collateral. Well, what is a country's collateral? A country's collateral is, in a big way, tax receipts from future generations. So your bonds are your grandchildren's like work product, your future grandchildren's work product, maybe their kids. But another way to do it is you co-opt another country's resources and you control those resources, and you develop companies and income around those resources, and you take a piece. And when you do that, you're going to make like $1 trillion or whatever. But what you can also do is say, hey, I'm gonna hold on to this for like 10, 20 years. We're gonna make trillions of dollars on this, so they can issue debt, and it's instead of corporate debt, it's just national debt. And so Europe right now, a lot of the debt that they have issued and that they can still issue has to do with investments in Ukraine. So if Ukraine loses and Russia wins, Europe has lost their collateral on a lot of their debt. They will go into a debt crisis. The
So
debt
could it could it be a distancing tactic from the EU?
as far as the British and what they're doing,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be like that. Like for example, they kept the pound sterling; they never adopted the euro, although that makes sense from many other angles. Because they're that might not be why they did that, but it might be a distancing thing. But I think with the Brits, it's hard to really say. I mean, we only can see what they're doing. We can't really see why. But I'll put it to you this way. I'll answer that question with a different question for the Europeans, and it's going to be like a similar mentality, right? The Europeans know that Ukraine's not going to go forever. The Europeans know that there's no way to keep Russia from just taking all of Ukraine if they want, outside of going into like full scale war, and they can't win that war. No one's going to win a land war against Russia. It's not going to happen. Not in the Russian backyard. There's no way. Give me a second here. I gotta drink some water. Brutal. Um, so if Ukraine really like Europe doesn't they don't have a fighting force, you know. Europe doesn't have the ability to fight Russia at this point. Russia would just take the European armies and their equipment wouldn't last. A lot of experts are saying like a couple of weeks on a full scale war against Russia, right? And remember, going into Ukraine to fight the Russians is, from a logistic standpoint, it's like invading Russia. It's like the same thing because Russia is directly connected. They have a border with Ukraine. Like Europe is this hodgepodge of other countries with a bunch of assets that they got to move around. And their tech and they haven't been fighting. They haven't really had the U.S. has been doing all of their grunt work and the wars going back for a century. So in the end, the Europeans don't really have a chance to beat Russia, and they know it. And the Americans are stepping back. Like, yeah, sure, maybe Trump gets out and they'll put in somebody who will do it, and the world might change at that point. But the U.S. doesn't have the capability to beat Russia either. So the reality is, Russia's going to take whatever they want from Ukraine, right? That's just how it's going to go. Now there might the only way to mitigate that is with business deals, and that's kind of what Trump's trying to do. So if whenever that ends, Europe can no longer tell the lie anymore that they can save Ukraine. And when they can't tell that lie, all their investments in Ukraine go bye-bye. And when those investments go bye-bye, their debt based on those investments goes bye-bye. And they have a massive debt crisis, and it will break the European Union. I don't think the European Union will last after that. It's already in big trouble. So that will be the...
Yeah, I agree with you. Germany's been supporting them for most of the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yep. What do you have? Nick says the mental game is a marathon. Okay, that's earlier. I was looking at the comment from Nick. Yeah, Germany's been, financially the engine. And guess what? Now they're not able to buy anywhere near as much Russian gas, especially in Germany when the Ukrainians blew up Nord Stream. And everybody was, it was Russia. I'm like, yeah, okay. Russia blows up their own pipeline they just spent billions like building. Okay, sure. Like, who believes that shit? So now it's come out that Ukrainians did it. And so basically Germany's energy prices have, I think, quadrupled for like industrial purposes, right? So they're getting LNG from the US. Like, we're sending it over on ships. Like, there's no way that's not sustainable. It's not efficient. Like, the wind and their solar doesn't work. That's masturbation. So they're going to have to develop a new energy technology. Like, Germany literally within all this time, like the last couple of years, they shut down their nuclear plants. Why? That's the only energy that you had that was feasible.
yeah. I
So
know.
they dismantled their own economy, and that's where all the shit is made in Europe, is in Germany and Italy and some other places. But Germany is the economic powerhouse, and they neutered themselves. So you have you have the Europeans self neutering, right? In that sense, and now they're just playing the finance game. They want to be the world's middleman, and that's not going to work anymore because the world's wise to it. This isn't 1820 anymore. Like everybody's like has their own stuff now. Like so. I don't know. I think they're high on drugs. I think their leadership are high on drugs, like literally high on drugs. And so what I think is going on is that they can keep the lie going that they have a chance at keeping Ukraine from from complete Russian takeover. Russia it'll still be Ukraine. It'll be a neutral Ukraine, and they'll run their own thing. But if the European investments in Ukraine are not preserved, then the European Union will fall. And so what they're doing in Europe, which is in a similar way what they're doing in England and here in the US for that matter, is they're going to keep the Ponzi game going with all the finance stuff. Because as long as that keeps going, then the wealthy can continue to extract whatever's left from the middle class that they can, right? And that's what England's doing. That's what the U.S. is doing to a certain degree, and has been doing it for a long time. It's nothing new. It's just ramping up. To answer your question, right? So that's what a liquidation is, where you're getting rid of your assets and you're taking whatever money you can get. That's liquidation. It's just where we are, and it's everybody running to hide because they know this shit's gonna hit the fan. And I'll give you guys the last little bit here, because we're at the end of the hour. If I were to say when is the stock market really gonna take a dump, and when are we really gonna see a big crisis, it's about 11 months from now, maybe 10 months from now.
Why 10 months?
Um, because the elites have a lot of I think the midterms have to do with it. I think once the midterms will have to do with it, but also the elites are into astrology, and whether or not astrology is real, they believe it is, and they control money flows, and they make their decisions based on astrology. And there's like some astrological shit at that time, and also if you look through history, all of the major economic crashes all happened. I think it was in either October or November when a Republican was in. So there's that.
Well, I guess the one last thing people got to keep in mind is when the big correction comes, unfortunately, and this has happened throughout history all the time, is whenever a country collapses, when they extract as much wealth as they can from the middle class before that time comes, when they put their foot down and start locking down your bank and coming for everything, that'll probably be the last phase.
Yeah, the capital controls.
Yeah.
I think what they'll do this time though is UBI.
They'll just digitalize everything and just have control with a button, pretty much.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to do UBI.
Yeah.
So I think I think the only way is going to be through some form of socialism, where they're just going to start giving money to people like they do it now. It's already happening. It's been happening. Snap and all that shit. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to clear out the old way of doing it, or at least they'll update it. And if things really, really hit the fan, then you're going to see a form of UBI for a time. I don't know that I don't think it can last forever. I don't think UBI and socialism has a long-term possibility of existing. But I think they'll do it for a time. Because I'll tell you this, when the uber wealthy run out of money to steal from the middle class, they go to war.
They steal from one another. Okay.
And that's they steal from each other, and that just goes to shooting wars. You end up with Ukraine, you end up with Iran, you end up with Venezuela, and we'll see. Trump's supposed to talk tonight, so I think that's why silver did what it did today. When's Trump talking? Let's look at that real quick. Live about Venezuela. We'll see live updates. Trump to announce 2026 agenda during national address. Okay, 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. So 7 p.m. our time. So wife and I don't really watch TV, but we might have to Might have to do this. He's talking about, oil rights in Venezuela. He's talking about all kinds of stuff. Like is this a State of the Union? Is that what this is? It's just a live address to the nation. He's going to talk.
Yes. State of the Union's in January, I think.
I think you're right.
But it's always fun just listening to Trump go.
He's very entertaining.
Oh, he
Yeah.
certainly is. Yeah. Did you guys see what happened with Mondami in the Oval Office?
No, I lose count of all the things he does.
Hold on,
tell
I
us.
got to write this message.
Tell us, please.
Trump's.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
That's what I like better about America. Your politics are way more fun than Canada. Canada's boring.
Oh, it was hilarious listening to him talk about the Venezuelan oil tanker that he seized. It was awesome.
Massive move markets. All right. I'm sorry. I had a note to Algo Factory what was going on because I had one of the clients in their Cool Cat. He's one of the few people who are actually in there trading all the time. There's Cool Cat, Miko, and myself who are in there actually trading, and a handful of others who trade occasionally. But the three of us are doing our thing. So okay, earlier today. And I discounted it. That it's about.
Yeah, because if Trump goes through with this, then wouldn't that affect China a lot because they depend on oil from Venezuela and those
It'll
countries.
affect everybody. But
Yeah,
I think
basically
I
screws.
think the U.S. Does too much business with China for it to cause a problem for them. China probably
They're
knows.
allo-
China
okay.
Xi probably already talked.
They probably allowed to go through and just just act like it's not going through. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the U.S. will give assurances to China and be like, "Don't worry,
Yeah.
we'll make sure you're good." That may have to do with that could move markets in a big way tonight, which precedes the BOJ. So might be some good trading coming up here.
Yeah, Tokyo, it's 9 a.m. there right now. 9:09 a.m. or something.
9 a.m. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in there now talking with the guys. So Trump had Montami, if you remember who he is. He's the new mayor of New York, and he's like a socialist, um, and so like and he was standing right next to Trump in the Oval Office, and somebody asked him, like one of the news reporters, at 9 a.m. in Tokyo right now. Edit.
9:07 a.m. Sorry, yeah.
So one of the reporters wanted to stir up the shit and said to Mondami, like right in front of Trump, it's like, Mr. Mondami, is it true that that you called Trump a fascist? And like he starts to do the flim flam political. And it's like, well, that was my position at that time, and Trump just like stops him. He goes, no, just tell him he did. It's okay. I don't mind. It's easier that way. Just tell him you call me a fascist. Don't worry about it. Like it is just like this typical Trump New York. He goes like this. He goes, yeah, it's easier that way. Just tell him.
No, he definitely knows how to handle the news media. He's been doing it masterfully.
Or up by, yeah, he is an animal with that. And in that particular instance, he disarmed him. He just disarmed him because they were going to make some big deal that, oh well, I called him a fascist, and then he lied about calling. Trump's like, it's sorry, I don't care, just it's okay, I totally took this story away from the press. Let me re-ask that question. Sorry, meant to ask up by 75 BP or up to 75 BP. Say 5 BP. Okay, we're going to find out. Somebody has a rumor. He got a rumor mill's 75 basis point rate hike in Japan. Like up to 0.75% is what I read. Holy shit. one of these guys is saying that, okay, so right now the Japanese rate is at 0.5%. You can see it right here on the left if you guys are able to see the if you can see the forex factory in the screen,
Yeah.
the white screen. So on the far left here, it's got all the rates listed out. British pound at 4%, USD at 3.75. Europeans are down at 2. Like, so JPY is sitting at less than 0.5%. That's really low. So right now, if they went up by, they would be more than doubling their rate. Like, people are thinking it's going to go up by 25 basis points up to 0.75%. But if they hike it by 0.75, it's going to go to 1.25%, which is up by 75 basis points. That's more than doubling the rate. That would literally kill the markets. Like, if they do that, whenever they do that, if they do that, you're going to see carnage. Like, if that actually happened. Rumors. BOJ will hike by 75 BP. They're only at 50 BP now. That's more than double. I read that people think it will by 25 BP to 75 BP. You have any word? All right, so we'll see. I'm going to see if we can get some info on that. Nick, keep an eye on Algo Factory. Andy, I don't think you're in Algo Factory yet, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Do you want to? Do you need to know more about that, or are you good?
Yeah, no, I'd think it's on my to-do list. I just haven't got there yet. But,
Yeah. If you want to talk about it, let me know. Like, I'm going to tell you this way. Like, in the investment world, money's been easy for a long time. Just throw your money in the S&P 500. You just hold your 401k and it goes up, right? Even in like the crypto world, just buy your crypto and it's going to go up and you're going to do fine. Like, that's going away. I can almost guarantee you the easy money time is over. And the billionaires are starting to figure it out. Because the billionaires are actually not that well informed. Some are very well informed, but a lot of them are really insulated. It's guys like me and our whole our whole group that do business with those people. Like, we tend to have some decent intelligence networks. Like, a lot of the things that have happened with like Israel and world economics and like this new Monroe Doctrine, we called that out a year and a half ago because my business partner, V the Gorilla, sells gold and crypto like to billionaires around the world. He does massive deals, like 8-figure deals, is on a regular basis. So he's somebody who he's very well connected to that scene. And by the way, V the Gorilla used to work for Stratfor, if you know who that is. Stratfor is basically a CIA think tank, although it wasn't like CIA hadn't quite co-opted it when he left, but it was a think tank back in the day. And by the way, V the Gorilla was a precious metals broker. He was a commodity trader. But after all that, so the guy is very well connected in the precious metals world, and he and I have, since been working together, we both got connected at the same time in the crypto world. So we know a lot of things. We're not always right, like we're not always correct in what we hear is coming, but we get a lot of info ahead of time in there, and that's a lot of the value. It's the info's been scant this year because everything, like, I think nobody knows what's going on at this point. I think that everything is so up in the air right now that we don't get all the signals. But we called out the yen carry trade a year before it happened, and it's about to happen right now. Apparently, we called out so many things, like, so that's a big part of being at Algo Factory, is just we're really well informed. But the other thing is that if you want to trade, even if you have like a full-time job, Andy, if I remember correctly, I think you're an engineer, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, the great thing about engineers is they make awesome traders, but the problem with engineers is they make terrible traders. So what I mean by that is
we got both ends covered.
Yeah, well, and this is the same as gamblers. Gamblers make great traders, but they make terrible traders. And gamblers and engineers on the opposite ends of that spectrum. And the reason is engineers want to know everything about how everything works. Their questions never end. And on top of that, they wanted to all work the same way each time. And that's not how it works. There's a little bit of gambling. There's an X factor. There's the fact that your trades are going to work a certain percentage of the time. And that's where the engineers can put that lens on and say, okay, I know I've developed a system, but there is a probabilistic rate of success. Like, it's like this, Andy. As an engineer, if I sat you in front of a slot machine and I told you that you were going to win 52% of the time, and I gave you $1,000 and I said you can bet $20 at a time, what would you do?
I'd take the $1,000 and go to the blackjack table.
Well, I mean, but the blackjack table is going to have not those odds. This is a scenario that I'm making up right now. I'm putting you in front of a slot machine. You can win 52% of the time. Just 52%. What are you going to do?
Is my winnings going to cover the losses?
Well, you win 52% of the time.
Oh, on an even bet, yeah. Then I'd be 2% ahead if I played the whole 1,000.
Yeah, well, you can't play the whole 1,000. You play $20 at a time.
Yeah, no, I would probably play it.
What you would do with that is what anybody in finance would do is I'd be putting in $20 and pulling that handle, and I would do it all day long, every fucking day.
It's just a numbers game at that point, right?
And that's what we do. So what we do is, like, you're going to develop a trading algorithm. You're going to back test it so that you know theoretically that you're going to win like 65% of the time, right? And by the way, you're going to win more money than you lose when you win. So your risk to reward ratio is going to be, if you lose $100. If you win, on average, it's going to be like 130. Could be higher, right? Could be a lot higher, but these are kind of like your lukewarm, easy to attain numbers. You're going to win 65% of the time. You're going to have a risk to reward ratio where you're winning 20%, 30% more than you would lose each time you win. So the deck is stacked in your favor. So all you got to do is continue to play. Just play. Take your lumps. Your wins cover your losses. Now you'll have like times when you lose 3 trades in a row and you're like, there's something wrong with my system. It's like, no, there is nothing wrong with your system, because there will be times when you win 4 in a row and you think you're God. And then there's times when you lose 3 in a row and you think you're failing. It's just the numbers working themselves out. And where people fail is they lose 3 in a row and they quit. Or where people fail is they win 4 in a row and they double their bet. Right? So it's all about it. It is a 100% systematization is what it is.
Yeah.
It is,
no, I like your analogy between engineers and gamblers.
Yeah, well,
it's true.
Well, I had a couple clients. He's one of the clients is my roofer, and I brought on him and his employee, and he likes to gamble. And I figured that out. We all had lunch, and he kept asking questions. I'm like, no, you're thinking like a gambler. That's not how this works. Like, he's like, what if I think gold's just going to go up? Do I put a whole bunch of money in it? I'm like, oh God, bro, you're not listening. Like, so the gamblers, their problem is they're not systematized, but their advantage is that gamblers are okay with taking a risk. They love taking risks. So if you can have you want to be numb to the game. And the problem with gamblers is they're not numb to the game. They're addicted to the game, right? So they want the risk. Like, they enjoy the risk. That's a problem. But you can't enjoy it and you can't be scared of it. You have to just understand it's a risk and not be emotional about it, which is why building a system is key and following that system. And then the pinnacle of having that system is building it so that it can trade for you. Therefore, the system has no human involvement aside from maintenance, right? So the problem with trading, for somebody who systematizes, who really does it right, the only problem they're ever going to have is emotional greed and fear. It's going to cause them to either be overconfident and bet too much, or they're going to be underconfident and not bet at all. And they'll change what they're doing. Anytime you change away from the plan is when you lose.
Yeah, like my main.
So, yeah, Andy, I would say, like, this is what I'm going to say. And this is like mine and V's message going forward, because we're going to be expanding our marketing. Like, we're probably going to hike our price. We're at $100 a month right now. We're probably going to go up to $200 sometime next year. Like, it depends. It's all about filling seats. So when we fill a certain amount of seats, we're going to double our price again. Now, the guys who got in early, like Nick, are paying $50 a month because they got in before we hiked up the price. So we're going to grandfather in, whatever the price is. So there's that bit of a sales pitch for you. Like, if you get in now, you'll always pay $100 as long as you don't leave. So there's that. The other thing is, look, we don't know that we're right about October, but I'll tell you what, before the major crash, you almost always see massive moves up. You see the big money making the market look very attractive to bring in retail so that retail can give them exit liquidity, meaning that when the big money wants to leave, they need somebody to come in so that they can sell to somebody. Because if they can't sell to somebody, then the price goes down and they can't exit at a profit. So there's probably going to be some major moves up next year too. It's not necessarily just going to go down right away. There probably will be a time when it does go down and go down for a while. That could happen sooner. It might happen now. It might happen tonight. Like, you don't know when that is. But what I will say is, for anybody in the investment world, just put your money in a 401k. Like, that's going away. It's not going to be as stable as it used to be. And that, saying it that way, is minimizing it. Like, it might be that your 401k gets stagnant or doesn't go up like it used to. It might be that your 401k goes to the toilet. And based on the way that everything is right now, I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't. I'm not telling you to take your money out of a 401k. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, you're going to need a new way. You're going to need a new hustle in the finance world. There's going to have to be a new hustle for most people. Like, just playing the simple game that they've been doing for so long, that's not going to be there. And it takes, like, somebody like you, Andy. I've talked to you. I've met you. Like, you're the kind of guy that if you wanted to build your algo in like 2 weeks, you could pull it off, right? Yeah, I know you are, as an engineer and as who I know you to be. But it takes time to test it. Like, I mean, back testing it, building an algo, looking at historical charts, going through the classes, that at 10 hours a week, you could get that all done within like a month or two. You could have that ready to go, but you have to forward test. So once you've back tested, develop an algo, you have a probabilistic model based on theory. When you forward test, the rubber meets the road, and your results are always going to not be quite as good as what the back testing was. And that's for a number of reasons, for psychological reasons, for technical reasons. But what you're going to end up doing is, okay, instead of like winning 68% of the time, you're winning 62. Instead of being at a risk to reward ratio of 135%, like 1.35 to 1, you might go down to like 1.25. or 1.2, which is great. You're profitable. It's not a problem. But when you forward test, you're going to live test. You're going to trade at a quarter position size. You're going to trade with toy money. And you're going to do it for a certain amount of trades until you understand what it is to live trade, what that's like to trade, the feel of it, how it works. And then once you've done that, ideally for 100 trades, but if it might be less depending on your situation, then you're going to know how it trades. You can increase the amount of money you're putting on the trades. Now you have a system. It's probabilistic. You're going to win a certain amount. And unless you screw up, it should be profitable for you at that point with all that work that you've put into it. And the dirty little secret about Algo Factory and the way it works is that manually doing this, going back, manually creating the algo, not trying to do it through like some computerized fashion. You can computerize it, don't get me wrong, but building it manually, that's going to give you the psychological edge that you need to continue to play when you lose 2 or 3 in a row or more. It happens. You get through slumps. It's just bad luck. Literally, it's just bad luck. So, but that's the sales pitch, Andy. So if you want to know more about it, like, you're welcome. You got me. You know where to find me. So ask me about it. And you guys, I want to thank you all for coming on. I'm going to hop off here. I went 20 minutes over, but it's an interesting time. Like, tonight's pivotal. Like, the next 2 days in finance and geopolitical finance are absolutely pivotal. So
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So, all right, gents, Thank you very much. We will catch up to you, if not before, then in 2 weeks.
Yep. It was good.
All right, thanks for watching. I do this every other Wednesday for the Brotherhood. I also have algofactory.tech, so come check that out. We teach people how to build their own trading algos so they can extract money out of the market on a regular basis. Whether you have a job or you don't have a job, whether you want to day trade or swing trade or simply invest, Algo Factory is a pretty awesome thing to do. So come check that out. Again, thanks for watching.